Hello everybody, my name is Eric and today we're going to be taking a look at another attempt to steal my YouTube channel. This one is a bit more sophisticated. It takes place initially via social media. They're in my XDMs. We get a DM from a guy called Alex Norris. The picture's a woman. Okay, and she's reaching out saying, and I'd basically we talk price and I say I want $1,000 for the integration. And she says, all right, we'll do that. And what they want is a contract. Now, the contract is on a fake site called udemycreators.com, which is a pretty good domain, but real companies would use a subdomain, not a different domain. And then they give me a personalized code to get into this. Okay, I just wanted to add something. I just saw this video on my recommended, and he got the same scam. This is Deep Humor. I've watched a few of his videos. He's a pretty cool guy. I'm going to actually link his video in the description where you can see what happened to him. And I think at least initially he believed it, but hopefully at some point he figures out this isn't quite right. Okay, so his antivirus is saying this is virus.
Shit, $650 for one video? I'll take it, right? So I said, okay, I'm ready to sign it. The signed contract link isn't loading.
So luckily his antivirus, so this was a different version that was detected and his antivirus blocked it. And luckily, he trusted his antivirus more than he trusted the scammer. Good job, Deep Humor. Oh, I don't know about that. Okay, this is something I haven't seen before. So we're going to switch to the analysis VM because I don't want to run this on my work VM. Okay, so now that we're in a VM where I don't mind executing malware, we're going to try this again. Very strange setup, how it takes so long to actually work. And what it must do is redirect to a protocol. That's something I never even thought about in terms of hacking people with a link, is it uses a protocol like how it says HTTPS here. You can actually put other things in a URL and execute code. So I guess that's how it gains execution. I've never seen that before. Now, out of curiosity, I thought we'd also check out the materials, and those actually do download a raw file that we can open. Not with VLC Media Player. I don't know why it defaults itself to do that. And this is the relatively straightforward thing, except they're not even doing the pdf.scl, they're doing the exe. I don't know who would fall for... So far, this hasn't done anything the second time, but we'll give it a bit longer. Maybe the intended way is that this page doesn't work, so then we get this sponsorship agreement for YouTube advertising and think, oh, this must be the file that we want. All right. So I guess the first thing we can do is just see, is this a well-known file? We'll upload it to VirusTotal, see if anyone else has done that. When people ask me why I'm not a big believer in antivirus scans. Well, there we go. It must be legit. So what I think we should actually do is run this on the main system as administrator and turn off the antivirus. No, I'm just kidding. We're actually going to find out what this is really doing. Let's just see if any of these sandboxes did catch anything. Nope. It's got the name Clone Spy, and the reason that it's undetected, by the way, is one of the biggest things antivirus relies on is a signature, and this is actually digitally signed. But it can't actually be Clone Spy, because I don't see, unless there's a DLL somewhere in here that I'm not seeing. I'll run it in the debugger, but... Well, we can download the real tool and just see how it compares. Main thing I want to see is who signs the real Clone Spy. Oh, this is installer. Well, we'll install the real Clone Spy just so we can get an idea. Yeah, it's a 32-bit version we have. Yeah, so it's significantly smaller. Wait, where's the digital signature? Well, that's not a good sign if the fake is signed and the real isn't. That's equally dodgy. But that's the problem with these scanners, is you can get 0 unless your program is well known just by signing it. So who signed this? Factica Software Inc. I've never heard of them. That doesn't mean they're not a legitimate company, but it does give me some pause. And they got nothing to do with the people who actually make the software. So we get into the main entry. I'm also going to run Detect Easy on it. Oh, and it's a malicious nullsoft installer, which has increasingly become a popular way of packing malware. Now, once we get into this, we get the actual contents of this is FileZilla. That's a strange thing to chuck in here, supposedly from portableapps.com. And this is, in fact, a legitimate FileZilla app. Okay. Fair enough. We're getting some XML errors, but that doesn't really matter, because that should have been copied over from this. Well, let's just try running the PDF and see what we get. See if this spawns any child processes. Okay, and then it spawns that more.exe. Okay, so there's something fishy going on in here. Okay, so by using any run, I was able to do a bit of dynamic analysis, and what's going on here is actually quite strange. So the malicious program launches more.com and ultimately goes into it doesn't seem to be getting a detection, but looking at this, we can be pretty sure this is dodgy. But the weird thing is this is coming from explorer.exe, and this explorer.exe is not a fake. So I've got procmon running, so now we can just track everything that is spawned by this 2896 PID. Do that by replacing this one with 2896. And anytime, and when this process spawns anything, we'll get the full details. Okay, so it seems like here it's not actually doing that spawn. Okay, and it's going through sending TCP. You can see it. I could already tell something was up when DP API was getting loaded, which of course this application shouldn't be doing. But I've put a hook at the point where it actually selects the Chrome cookies. Now the actual internet communication is done through a DLL called WebIO. Now we can go over to symbols and we can actually see all the different exports of this and try and see which of these are likely to be of interest to us. Now here you could easily be confused into thinking that is a Google domain, and that is exactly what they want you to believe. But that's unlikely, given they're probably not, Google is probably not using reg.ru. Now this, I'm guessing, is the actual path. These two are going to end up getting concatenated. Let's just see exactly how this works. And ECX goes to WinHTTP open request. So we are, as we can see here on the stack, we have the full command and control domain. We can be pretty confident this is not going to be going to a Google server. It's not a Google server that it could be a Google Cloud server. And we actually got a response with a bunch of asterisks. Now I imagine if we look at this in this program, we're going to get a different response. And that's because the request is actually being sent at this point, but we can just... It's kind of an interesting setup here. So I found all the bits of the packer by using a breakpoint that triggered when this piece, which we know from comparing through static analysis, was different. And right now this is the address, and ECX will keep moving as we step through the routine. And then when the unpacker has finished, we jump to this spot. And if we go to ECX right now, we will have the final byte. So let's see what's at ECX right now. Just gives me an idea of everything that was affected by the packer. And then we can also dump out the portion that was affected. And if we search for string references, now that we should be able to find the command and control server's reference that was previously missing. Not yet, okay. And then we jump into the actual payload entry point. And then we end up in this little function where we see this CDN server. So I'm sort of curious because it didn't work on any run, but it might work locally if when I activate MITM proxy, if we can also capture it that way. Okay, immediately we see a hit to this bogus CDN server, but it takes a second to respond. And then we hit this HTTP bin drip code 200. And we hit this site again. Almost seems like there's an intentional delay here before redirecting to HTTP bin, which is just a response service, so there's no actual content there. Now that command and control server behavior is profoundly weird, because not only is it not doing anything, it's just essentially endlessly calling a CDN server, which should be going somewhere, but it's instead getting redirected to HTTP bin, which doesn't seem like the intended behavior. Now, given we haven't sent it any information, it's unlikely to be a server-side sandbox detection, although somehow when it was running in any run, it actually did manage to crash the VM. or not crash, but it would crash if you turned on MITM proxy. So that's a strange behavior. Now, just one more time, I kind of want to try that contract, the other page again. And on this browser, it does work. Okay, but I don't know exactly what it's doing, but let's just see if anything happens. Interestingly, this document sharing is also using the same SSL register, and it's throwing out a forbidden. But it doesn't seem to do... I thought it might do something when we gave it the Explorer permissions, but so far it's not showing any signs of that. You can try more browsers. Try Edge or Chrome. Maybe WireGuard is breaking up. Nope, that doesn't seem to be the problem. I wonder if we download it, because it seems to be claiming that it's WebDAV. So I wonder if we download CyberDuck. Will that fix it? I'm also just going to ask my lovely contact at this scam organization about it, saying that the download for the contract doesn't work, so am I supposed to be using the Media Kit instead? Okay, so it seems like that was all a ruse. So I'm going to wait and see if we get another response from the scammer. So after a fair bit of work in uncovering how this program works, I dumped the memory that gets modified by the unpacker, and then I went through it all in Binary Ninja, and I sort of figured out that basically this jump not equal is checking if the return from the server contains this piece of data right here. If it does, then we execute all of this. If it doesn't, then we go back in the loop. There are a few ways of dealing with this, but one of the simplest ways is just to patch this, replace jump not 0 with jump 0, and suddenly the jump is no longer taken, and we now execute what we would have executed. Let's make sure I've got MITM proxy going, because I'm trying to see. One of two things is happening, because the C2 server is broken. That's essentially why this didn't work. If the C2 server is broken and there's nothing, like if it was downloading a second stage, we're not going to see anything interesting. If instead the program was simply checking something, then we might see something interesting. Let me just double check if we're supposed to jump here or not. Yeah, I think we do want this one to be 0. I'm also going to check. So we got thrown back in. Okay, so it was that final one we had to satisfy to dodge it. And now we're loading different DLLs. We loaded... I've not seen this one load before. So far, we're still getting stuck in this loop, so I'm going to see if I can get out of here. Change this to a jump not equal. Now we're into a return loop. And we exit the process. Okay, no, it didn't do anything. I thought for a second when we hit DP-API, that might be the exit. So ultimately, my assumption here from going through all of the code is, and I'll pull up the Binary Ninja so you can see what we got. So this is essentially the malicious function right here. So I just call this mal web request base. This is called into the program unpacks this region of memory. I can actually show you the packer here. Remember this, so the base address, and then it adds an offset. And I believe there's actually an interesting trick here. And I don't know if this is compiler optimizations or this is actually a trick. But see, if you notice something sort of interesting here. So we do EX, then we add the offset. But then to the value, we add something. So there is it's almost a simpler version of the XOR trick. And as a result, all of this stuff gets copied into the section of memory that I'll pull up over there. And you can also see it in this binary if we go to the 6B address. This is where the malicious sample actually gets loaded in from. Now we can go back to the dump. So after that finishes, we end up jumping into this section of memory. This all just sets all of these different addresses. I didn't go through the process of tracing every single one, but this is the important one because this is the base of winhttp.dll, which is ultimately what makes those requests to the command and control server. I'll scroll down a bit, we can actually find that. And we can find the while loop that we are in. Now this is a while true loop, at least in this decompiler it is, but there is an exit condition. Now, I found I found this through dynamic analysis, that this is hard-coded to be this. It just says .png. If it says .png, then we call into this function with the out. This is the output. This is WinHTTP. This is that address space that I don't totally understand, and this is the URL. The URL is unpacked through this function. It's kind of confusing, but we get the idea. And then we go into here, and here we just call, and these are just offsets, which are, because Binary Ninja has decompiled this as an array, we get these different offsets for the different bits. Like I could make this a struct to make it a bit cleaner, but I'm not that bothered about it. And then you can see, okay, do that, and then try and get the data if we can. And then we return a result, which is just a result code. So that's that. So this, to my best guess, is ultimately should have been a dropper. But our friends, and they don't even seem to realize it, because I DM'd them, and they responded. So they don't even seem to realize that their malware campaign has partially broken, which is kind of funny. But ultimately, they're not going to be having any luck stealing my channel, despite the good effort. They've definitely stepped it up. It's no longer just a random email attachment with a sketchy PDF. These guys reached out to me on social media saying, hi, we'd like to sponsor you. They made a negotiation. Then they sent me to a very well-designed website with a good domain. Got my own code that I enter. That's mainly so that researchers won't find it in the wild. And also, it makes it feel more legit. Not that I've ever had a sponsor that did something quite like that. And then I can download a media kit that contains an exe that is supposedly the contract. Now, a big part of why this is completely undetected is, what you may not know is Antivirus, while they claim to have all of these sophisticated scanning techniques, and it's not a total lie. Like there are scanning techniques, but one of the biggest heuristics that an antivirus will use. Just checking if this is the dump. So that might be interesting, because that'll be a very similar. But this one, because it's not validly signed anymore, it actually gets a couple of detections. But antivirus, unless there's a very good reason to think otherwise, if you sign the payload, they will look the other way. So these guys, given this is a very targeted spear phishing attack, simply obtained a signing key. Now, this is the original payload, which is fully undetected, but at least I commented to call it out. Now this one is signed. And if we look at the signature, there is one other kind of interesting thing going on here. This is a valid signature, and it's signed by this Factica software. And it was signed on the 30th of October. Now you can view the certificate. You see, this certificate was purchased on the 9th of October. But what's sort of interesting is if we search this up on Reddit, we find something kind of interesting. It seems, and it could just be a coincidence, but it seems that in Ottawa, Canada, there's been a job scam that's also been using the name Factica software. I don't know if they're related or if it's just a coincidence, but here we go. They ask him to. So it's some sort of, seems like a money laundering campaign or identity theft. So I can't confirm if these are the same guys or they just happen to choose the same name, or maybe the first scammers got hacked or are letting other people use their signing certificate. Just be on the lookout. The fact that it's signed doesn't mean it's safe. I was actually asked this a few times. Yeah, on average, a signed file is more likely to be legitimate. But what actually matters is not that the file is signed, but who it is signed by, right? Because if we look, of course, ignoring the fact this is a fake PDF, the file says that it's Clone Spy, and there's even some weird traces of Clone Spy in here if you search through the binary. But the way we can tell it isn't clones is, A, the real clone thing is actually not signed, and B, this is not the publisher of Clone Spy. So that's how you know that this is not the real one. So that's another red flag. Is the digital signature the wrong person? Then it's not a good sign. So that is going to be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next. That's all from me for now. Bye.